Welcome back to the Garden Guys. As always, it's me, Peaches, and I am here once again with Meg.
Hello.
So we were just talking about knitting and crocheting.
We were. I do it like it's my soothing thing.
Right. It's a mindless thing to do that keeps me off of the internet, and I can think and process and all that.
Well, sometimes I have to count, and it can be soothing for me, almost meditative to count, count. And it's very repetitive. So I don't know. It brings me a lot of joy. And I also have platforms for that too, where I teach it. And
really? Yeah. I'm going to have to check that out.
Well, check it out when I actually put them out there.
Oh, dope. You'll have to let me know.
That's what I'm going to do. Yeah.
I've tried crocheting. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot happening.
And I think that with the knitting, because my two hands don't work together very well. So
really?
Yeah. I guess it's whatever you start out.
Right. I get it with the meditative part of it though, because I'll be like, I'm working on a blanket for my husband right now, and it's an alternating pattern. So I'm knitting 3 and then purling 3, and it's going back and forth. So I'm like knit, 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 purl, 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 and that's just my mind for like an hour and a half.
It is, but it gets you outside of all your other stuff. So that's why I feel like it's meditative.
Well, since we just started the topic on knitting and crocheting,
right.
I was going to touch on this at the end, but we're going to touch on it right now before we dive back into the story that you were telling us.
Okay.
And I wrote down hobbies. How important are hobbies?
Very.
Yeah.
Very. So one of the P's is passion. Find something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And it could be anything. And I think when, like I've said before, as women, we pour into everybody else, right? And you very rarely take the time to do something for you. So when it comes to hobbies, that's something you love to do. You might pick something you've never tried. A lot of my friends do those diamond dot paintings.
Yeah.
I think I would go crazy doing one, but it's very soothing for them. For me, the crochet is very soothing. My sister's a rock climber and a hiker, and so that is her thing. And now she's a writer, and it's just something that's just selfishly for you. And I don't think it's selfish. I think it's great for you to do that. So hobbies get really important, and it's part of when I get into the passion in P, it's find something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And then once you find that, how can it serve your purpose? How can it lead you to serve your purpose? Or how can it just give you some peace of mind or a few minutes to yourself? It's really important.
It really is. And it doesn't have to be the same thing forever.
No, I always tell people, so I made a journal and published it on Amazon, which I kind of don't like it now because it can go so much deeper. But one of the things was, I'm going to do something for 15 minutes today that I love doing. And then underneath it said, it's something I've done for years, or it's something new I tried. And you can try something new and say that, oh my gosh, I love that, or I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
So discovering new things is part of discovering who you are too, and expanding that.
Yeah. Expanding is a lot.
It is.
Over the last few years, and really with the podcast kicking off, I've discovered that when I rediscovered who I was, it was just the first phase of me.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Once you start, you can't stop.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what drives me to want this for people so much, because it's such an amazing journey that if you just stay stagnant and don't grow, you're missing out on so many different things.
So much.
Yeah.
Recently, so my husband, all through childhood, him and his cousin Joe, they would dirt bike together. And we have now recently gotten back into dirt biking. Well, not we. I have started dirt biking. We have e-dirt bikes.
Yeah.
Never done it before. It's been like 2 decades since I've been on a regular bicycle. My balance is not there.
Oh, no.
I have long, claw nails. I'm not built for this.
No.
But I'm doing it.
You liking it?
I'm having fun.
Good.
I fall every single time we go out. That's a lie. I have fallen enough to equate that every time we've gone out, I have fallen at least once. So there's an average.
When I got to Florida, I see all these people riding bikes and stuff, and I got on my sister-in-law's bike, And when they say it's like riding a bike, they lie, because it was the hardest thing to find my balance on a bicycle again. I was like, what in the world? Why do they say this is so easy? But it was a cool feeling once I got a hold of it. I remember how free I felt on a bike as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, just cruising. It was fun.
Getting that feeling back again. I love those little moments in adulthood where I feel like a child again.
Absolutely.
Like those are the moments that I really deeply cherish, because not only am I really just genuinely appreciating the moment in life, I feel like I'm healing a little bit more, like that scar is fading a little bit lighter.
Absolutely. I tell people that's a great first date, is to do something you would have done when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Do something fun, do something competitive, because it gets both people back into that kind of time where you're not trying so hard. You're just enjoying the moment, or you're being a little competitive or whatever. So it's great.
All right, so we started with some light discussion.
Yep.
So let's pick up where we left off in the last episode. We were just, I would say we were kind of halfway into the conversation of what your experience was being with someone who was narcissistic. And we left off with you found out that he was getting blackout drunk every single day.
Right. Yep. Every night. And where it's easy to excuse when I live in a tourist area and he comes down and we drink and it's on the weekends. He has a very high stress job. And I just think, oh, he's just letting off steam. Same thing when I went up there. Just worked a whole week. He's just letting off steam.
Was there ever a conversation of, do you ever drink outside of the weekends? Or did you maybe notice any text messages that were kind of weird during the week?
No, I really didn't, but I grew up with an alcoholic father. So it all circles around to the fact that I knew how to navigate an alcoholic.
Okay.
My dad was a very functional alcoholic. He always had a beer in his hand, but I never really, unless he would go out with friends, which was, I think I remember one time where my dad came home visibly intoxicated. Now I have a very, very large family. So if it was a big family gathering, he probably drank more, but I didn't really see it like that. My mom probably did. I did not as a kid. But it wasn't anything new to me to have someone come home from work and have a drink or but to drink 3 bottles of wine and not remember an argument we had the night before and wonder why I'm upset in the morning. That was all new to me.
So that was after you guys moved in together?
Correct.
So during that year when you guys were doing the long distance and falling asleep on FaceTime or like you could hear him snoring.
I think I overlooked it.
Okay, because I was about to say, because like he's not just not drinking if that's how he's doing it when you move in, you know?
Yeah. He always had a glass of wine.
Okay.
And to me, that was always like, you have a glass of wine before bed. And what I didn't see was how much wine he was going through. And being somebody who doesn't drink at all, I don't even know what that feels like. I didn't know how, I kind of looked at wine as not something that gets you intoxicated because most people who drink a glass of wine are just relaxing.
Right.
And I didn't put into the equation that there was 2 to 3 bottles a night being consumed. Okay. So it was very easy for me. Now I look back and I see it, but then I just thought, oh, it's just a glass of wine.
Gotcha. So now you are living with him. You have found out that the drinking is a problem. So where are you at now in your mindset?
Well, it was funny because he asked me at one point, does my drinking bother you? And because I don't drink, everybody thinks I'm very against drinking. It's just something I never picked up. And I said, if you control the alcohol, I'm fine. If the alcohol controls you, I'll have a problem. And of course, no alcoholic thinks they have a problem.
Right.
So it still took me a few months to register, and it accelerated. And to register the problem, as bad as it was. And I fed it. I mean, I was the one who picked up the bottles of wine from the grocery store. If I didn't pick up, it was like, if you don't pick up 2, you're going to run out and get more.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to interrupt you.
Sure.
You said that you were feeding it.
Well, I navigated my dad, and I was used to somebody having that, and then
you said you would have a problem if it controlled him.
Yes.
You said that. Okay, so he asked you, does my drinking bother you? Were there things happening while he was drinking? Like, did his personality change? Did the mask slip a little bit? What were the things that were happening that prompted him to ask you that?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
Because he was a very mellow drinker. Our nights consisted of him coming home. I had dinner ready. If we didn't go to the gym in the morning, we would go to the gym. We'd come home, have dinner, sit on the couch and watch TV. And he'd rub my feet and we would snuggle. And I always had to be very close to him on the couch. And it was like that. What I realized later, and I didn't see, I saw it, but I knew how this worked. So as he drank, he would check out.
Okay, like disassociate?
Yeah.
Okay.
He would be in whatever show we would watch. And usually we would watch series like Game of Thrones, Sons of Anarchy, something we were really into. Yeah, binge watching. And he would be really into it. And so was I. And of course I'm crocheting. So I'm doing my thing. And my dad did that. When my dad would come home from work, we'd have dinner. He'd sit in his recliner. He would watch his shows with a beer in his hand, never acting out in any kind of way. And that was very comfortable for me.
Okay.
It just, what I call it is comfortably uncomfortable. We get used to navigating things that, and they were both so much alike as far as, until it accelerated, they were very much alike in that they would just chill out after work, both. So it was a daddy thing, I guess.
I got you.
Yeah. I was just used to it.
So you also said that you fed into it. And you also mentioned that if you got 2 bottles, you would have to go back out and get more to supply. Was that to avoid arguments?
No.
Or
we didn't argue.
Really?
No. It was funny because at the very beginning, it was like I knew to bring 2 bottles home and 2 bottles would last that night and the next night. Then it was 2 bottles would last if I put it in the house. It was consumed. And then it got to the point where after the 2 bottles wasn't enough, I need you to run out and get another bottle. And I'd be like, haven't you had enough? I think this is enough. He's like, go out and get it or I will. And I'm like, you're drunk. Like, you can't drive like that.
Oh, gotcha.
So to avoid a fight about that, yes, I would go and get another bottle.
Or to prevent somebody who's been drinking
to go out and drive.
Yeah,
because they don't care.
Okay, so there was some irrationale there in those discussions. And you're like, look, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I made a point to cut back on how much I would bring home, thinking that if that was all that was there, that's all he would consume. And then it was, no, I had to go back out and get more. So,
okay.
Yeah, it was a game. It was it accelerated. Yeah.
What were some other things that you started to notice after you guys moved in together? You're like, okay, that's kind of too much. What is this?
Nothing.
Okay.
Isn't that ridiculous? There wasn't a whole lot of anything. I did. Oh, no. Let me take that back. I did notice that when we were separate, he had me on like Life 360 or whatever. He had my location on my phone.
Okay.
And he said, that's because I want you to be safe. When I got there, he still had me on it. And I said, well, can I put you on it too so I know where you're at? And he said, no. And he said, because I work on a military base, we can't have our phones with a GPS signal running.
They really have an excuse for everything.
Everything.
Wow. And that's believable. If you didn't.
I don't know the military world.
Right.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then I finally said, if I'm not tracking you, you're not going to track me because I'm never anywhere but at home or at the grocery store. So, like, I went very few places. And I was very happy to be a stay-at-home girlfriend. His son would come home from school and plop down on the couch and tell me all his things. And it kind of got me back into that mom mode that I hadn't been in a while.
Right.
That made me feel useful. And our day was like, we would wake up. I would go make coffee. I would run his shower. He would get in the shower. I would bring him his coffee. While he was doing that and getting ready, I would lay out his clothes or at least, make sure everything was ready for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would make breakfast. He would come out. We would eat breakfast together and we would talk for a little while. He'd give me a kiss and go to work. And I didn't mind doing any of that.
It sounds peaceful.
It was, for me,
Yeah.
it was like,
Right.
like, it was that nirvana for me
Yeah.
because I love taking care of somebody and I felt like he took care of me. And our agreement was he would take care of, he would work.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want me to work. I didn't see that as a red flag. I do now. But he didn't want me to work. He says, I've got you. All I want is a peaceful home. And if you take care of me, I'll take care of you. And that was our agreement. So where people would say, why did you do all that for him? I'm like, because I never worried about a bill.
Right.
I never worried about whether the lights were going to come on. I didn't worry about having a roof over my head. He did so much for me. And this was the agreement we had. So, and then I got into a craft of embroidery and he helped me do that. But once I started making money doing it, he didn't like it so much. Then it was
Really?
taking too much time away from him. So
Okay.
financial control is huge.
About to say that sounds like financial abuse right there.
It was.
So
I was a hairdresser for 30 years. And he said, literally, I said, well, I could go do hair. I could go into a salon and do hair. And he said, I don't want you washing other men's hair.
Wow.
I was like, okay. So he started to drop little.
Yeah. Little here and there.
But I went, oh, that's so sweet that he doesn't want.
Well, that could be viewed as like an intimate thing.
It is.
Right? Washing somebody's hair, having conversations with them. Somebody who's deeply insecure, I would never ask my husband if he was a hairdresser for 30 years. You can't do that because I'm uncomfortable with you touching women.
Right.
It's part of the profession.
Yep.
But I could see how someone goes, okay, he's just insecure and he's very protective and he doesn't want temptation or whatever.
Right.
And I can see how somebody can rationalize that in that moment.
Well, it also came into being in the gym and he wanted me to get a trainer, but it had to be a female. And I
Okay.
respond better to males in training. I don't like women. I don't like them in general. So I would respond better to a male trainer just because I get along with guys better.
Yeah.
He would not have that. That was not going to happen.
Yeah.
A male massage therapist was never going to happen. It had to be a
Wow.
woman. Just those kind of things started dropping here and there. And I didn't get it, but I thought, okay, he's just, somehow you rationalize it into them being sweet.
Right.
Or the possession of you feels good.
Especially when you've been floating around
Yes.
aimless,
Yep.
not really belonging to anybody, a family or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it felt really good to be like, be held like that. And I didn't see it that's what I say. It happens so slowly. It
Right.
happens so slowly. You take it one way and it's really serving a whole other purpose.
So you said that when you were happy being the stay-at-home girlfriend, you were enjoying it. It was like there was the agreement. And then you said that he didn't want you working. And that's now a red flag for you. Can you elaborate on that for me? Because I enjoyed being a stay-at-home wife. Right?
Yeah.
So what makes it a red flag for you? What are the differences?
Well, looking back at it, I see it as a red flag.
Okay.
Then, because I was a stay-at-home mom with my first husband and my second husband, so this was nothing new for me to be the stay-at-home girlfriend, wife, person, mom,
Right.
person, right? Looking back on it, the financial control he had made me feel, or could make someone feel, very stuck.
Got you.
I'm 500, 600 miles away from home. I gave up the place I live. I gave up the businesses I was doing. And he's taking care of me. And he's allowing me to do something that I love, which was the embroidery thing, which I loved. I think it didn't really start firing off. Two things fired off. One was when my business was growing.
The embroidery?
Yes.
Okay.
And he wanted it to stop. All of a sudden, I was spending too much time doing it. He didn't want to invest in the next step of me growing my business.
Which is very strange and a lot of backpedaling.
Oh yeah, a lot of backpedaling. He had me do things for him that were, you know, I am the one who applied for the kids' FAFSA things for college. I would, you know, I was doing so much of these things. I had complete access to the money. I had complete access to everything. He just kind of put it on my plate and said, you know, I trust you with all this stuff here, handle it, which was fine. I fell right into that role. But when it came to, you can't grow this business you love, I'm like, oh shoot, now it's taking up too much time. You're always in there doing that. And you're not spending any time with me anymore. And I'm like, okay, I can do it during the day while you're at work. And then I'm done when you come home. And just nothing was, I just kept trying so hard to undo whatever it was I was doing, you know, to spend more time with him and do all these things. So it was sneaky. It was really sneaky, but it started, I started wondering, why is it like this?
Yeah, because that's very strange. That's a very good compromise, in my opinion, to say, hey, I'll do this while you're at work. And when you get home, I'm done. Like, we're both off the clock. We're spending time together. Yeah.
But don't grow it. Don't make any money off it. Don't make any sustainable income from it. Was kind of the.
So he wanted you to keep it as a hobby.
Yeah.
That's very strange. Yeah, I can see why that would be like looking back, going, okay.
Because I wouldn't need him.
Right.
If I made my own money. And looking back at it, I wouldn't need him. And he kept saying, I would say to him things like, I never put down roots. I don't feel safe putting down roots because they always get uprooted and I get tossed. And he said, you are safe. I want you to put roots down here. I've got you. And that is something I'd wanted to hear all my life.
And I bet he knew that.
He absolutely knew that.
He took, like you said, your insecurity, your triggers, and really played on them. Yeah. So you gave a couple examples of what were little crumbs that you started noticing, or looking back, you're like, okay, that's definitely not how you treat somebody that you love. So when did you get to the point, because you said that he actually ended up leaving you. He had the backup plan. Oh, yeah. Okay, actually, I want to touch on that real quick. Yeah. You said he cheated 4 times.
He did.
How did you find out the first time?
The first time I found out, I have to think back because a lot of it's a little bit blurry. So I caught him sending pictures to someone over the phone. And, you know, when they're drunk, it's easy for them to get real slow. Their reaction time gets slow. So I walked out and saw him sending the picture. And then he put his phone down real quick. And I said, who are you texting? Because I saw the photos coming like from one side and the other, but he was too slow to close his phone. And then it was my fault. It was, why are you looking at my phone? Why do you care? I'm not, oh no, I was just sending that picture to my buddy. My buddy sent me that picture of a girl. That he knows. And I'm like, okay. That's fine.
So how did you get past the first time? What?
Packed my stuff the next day and left.
Okay.
Because he got so angry about it and I was so mad, I packed my stuff and left. And then, you know, baby, I miss you. It's going to be different. You took it all wrong. That was actually, you know, he explained it away and I wanted the explanation so bad.
Right, because you still wanted that high with him.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I went back. And another time was he had a friend who was very, very sick, dying of cancer. We would go every other weekend to see him because as he declined. And he finally passed. And I had gone to do one of my clients that I maintained in South Florida. I had gone to do a visit with them while they were planning the funeral. And his son called me the morning of the funeral. And he said, I got in a car accident. I said, are you okay? He said, do you know where Dad is? And I said, no, he's at his friend's house. He's there somewhere. He's like, he's not answering. And I said, okay. So I called. He didn't answer. I called somebody I knew who was there. They answered. And then they had to go look for him because he wasn't in the room we were normally stayed in.
Right.
He was in bed with the friend's sister. And I heard her answer the bedroom door. Because, you know, when you know a place,
Right.
you know where they're going.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then he was in there with her the day of the funeral. And I showed up to the funeral anyways because he had lost his best friend.
Holy shit.
And I walked in and came behind him and put my hands on his shoulders. I said, are you okay? And he kind of looked at me like, oh my gosh, you're here. And everybody knew what happened. Like the friend's kids, his sister was there, the one he had slept with. And I felt so sick, but I gave him a hug and then I gave her one too. And I said, you know, I'm sorry for your loss. Because that's the person I am. Like, I'm not going to abandon him.
Right.
Then we fought. Then we back to the room and fought.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be the one that acts out because they make you look crazy. And I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of looking crazy in front of everybody. I was just going to hold myself together. And like the girls this man who died had these teenage girls and they knew what happened because they're the ones who found him, right? While I was on the phone. So they gave me a hug and they said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You know, they're whispering that in my ear because it's their aunt and my boyfriend. And I'm like, it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah.
He said that they were just drunk and sad and it happened. And he denied most of what happened,
Yeah,
of course. But that was, I don't think I went back after that.
Yeah.
The last time I went back, he had already told me that he met someone and he wanted to see where it went. And I said, okay, that's fine. He said, but will you come and throw this graduation party? Because you've been with this kid for 2 years and he's graduating. I know you don't want to miss it, blah, blah, blah. Basically, he needed somebody to throw the party for.
Yeah, because he wasn't going to.
Oh, no, he wasn't. Yeah. So I went up and I did the party and I, you know, spent 4 or 5 days there, and it was just in front of the kids. We were holding hands. We were snuggling on the couch. We were sleeping in the same bed. I was interacting with his family and his mom and all the things and acting like normal. And the day I left that, I never went back.
That's one of those moments where life isn't fair. There are other people involved, though, and I bet that graduation party that you threw for that young man meant a lot to him.
I hope so. I mean, they didn't talk to me afterwards. So that was tough because I love those kids. But, you know, it was kind of my closure because once your eyes are open to it, you see everything. So things that he would have gotten away with before got ridiculous to me because I found earrings in the side table drawer. There was never anybody in our room. Okay, whatever.
It's like being sloppy on purpose.
It was.
Yeah.
I picked up his hairbrush to use it, and there was long, dark hair in it. And he said, you're the only one who's used that.
Right.
You do see my hair on my head? Like, how stupid. But that's probably how blind and stupid I had been. I would have not let that by before, but it had never happened. But it's just like, really? You're going to be that stupid about it?
Yeah. You think that I am not intelligent enough to see this.
Yeah. And you don't think you are either at that point.
Right. And it's not a lack of intelligence. It's you're wearing rose-colored glasses. And when you're wearing rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags.
Yes. And at this point, I was just repelled by him. I remember laying in bed and wanting to be close to him and then feeling sick when I was. And that was like, get out and stay out. And I actually said something really nasty to him beforehand. before I left, and he was crying, and I said something nasty to him. And I actually found him where he went. He stopped at a drugstore, and I stopped, and he came out, and I said, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. This doesn't need to end like this. I love you. I gave him a kiss and a hug, and I never saw him again. That was the end.
What a way to end it. How did that feel for you? Like, because in that moment, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of power.
Like it. It didn't feel like it at all. I was lost. I was so lost, but it is in my nature. I wanted so much to love him, and I loved him so much that I couldn't even imagine ending things in a bad way. No matter how much I was hurt. And, well, I was mad because I got a really big speeding ticket on my way home.
Oh, yeah.
So I had 600 miles to drive, and I got a super speeder ticket in Georgia going like 92. Now I drive a Kia.
Yeah.
You have to try hard to get a Kia to go 92 miles an
Yeah.
hour. So I was in my own head. I was just, but with every time I left, I got a little stronger. And this was just, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I hate to think if he would have ever come back, what if I would have gone back again.
Yeah.
But he was married 6 months later.
Wow. Okay. To the woman he was like, I want to see where things go.
I don't know which woman
That's
it was.
crazy.
It was the woman he needed at the time.
Needed at the time. That just tells me that you view people as disposable. That sentence right there.
It was. He needed somebody to
Yep.
stay home and finish raising his son. And I did that. Get him through, growing a business. I did that.
That's crazy.
And then find out later that he was going to lose that business, and I didn't make any money, so he needed somebody who did. So he found somebody who made money and married her up.
Wow.
It's amazing what you find out afterwards and how stupid you feel for. But they're so good at it. They're so good at it.
I mean, when you think about it, say he was in his 30s, he started recognizing at 6 or 7 years old that he can manipulate people.
Yeah.
25 plus years of perfecting a craft.
Yep.
People do get really good at it.
Really good at it.
So now he's in the past.
Yep.
You moved on.
Yep.
What are you doing for yourself to build back up who you are or rediscover who you are as a person?
At the moment? In the moment or now?
In the moment. Like
in the moment. Oh.
the first steps you took, because I imagine at this point you've been cheated on 4 times.
Yeah.
He's just told you she's here.
Yeah.
Thanks for all of it. Good luck in life.
Yeah.
So now where are you at emotionally? Where is your mind going to? What are you thinking?
Lost.
And
Oops. That's the best way I can put it, is lost. Because I couldn't form a thought. I would literally, as much as I talk. I remember being in the kitchen with my sister-in-law. And my mind blanked out to the point I could not form a word. I was so lost. And then I did the thing where how awful it was. I did the thing where I researched how to get your ex back. I was determined to get this jerk back. Like, so desperate. I felt so lost without him. And so I did that. And then I came across the things about what narcissistic abuse looks like. And I remember watching it and thinking, oh my gosh.
did it all click for you?
Oh my gosh, did it ever? And then they're like cookie cutter people. So if anybody's watching this and recognizes this, they operate with the same MO so often that it's not even funny. A lot of them will fake being in the military. That's another thing they do. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I don't know why they do it, but they'll say they have a military past.
It has to be the attention.
It is. It's the grandiosity that they need to have. So I just felt so lost, and I felt alone and wondering how I got here. Why is this affecting me so much? So when I came across that, it answered a lot of questions for me. But then I ran into the whole thing of self-love and how do you do that? And that's when I backtracked to what I had learned, beating anxiety and depression, because that's a lot of components, a lot of the same components in this, is anxiety and depression, PTSD, CPTSD. And I just went back to my steps and
Yeah.
started working through those kinds of things that I worked on for anxiety and depression.
So, what are some of the tools? Because you said 15 or 20-ish years ago. I think you said it was 15
Yep.
years ago that you got all those tools.
Yep.
You were a business owner, you were doing a thing, you were single, living on your own, and that's when he came in. So you weren't a lost puppy, you weren't hurting for validation or acceptance.
No, I was like in the best, besides raising my kids, I was in the best single part of my life, you
Yeah.
know, just living, being me.
So you are now re-implementing those tools. Was there a part of you was there a part of you that was like, it was almost too painful to revisit those tools because you're like, how did I not tap into that before? How did I not remember that?
Not really, because it was so long ago. I had gone through multiple things that I had to use those tools for.
Okay.
So my tools were really practiced. What I wasn't sure of is how to implement it with heartache, because I had never had my heart broken to the point where my heart hurt, like physically hurt.
Right.
I mean, it was so new to me.
So there was a new component.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. But I just started going through, because I knew what depression felt like. I knew what anxiety felt like. I could implement them in those ways. And then I started to grow it in order to recover from this. And that's when my program started. Formulating in my head was, there's this missing component of completely not knowing who you are and being so confused as to how could I be so stupid? How did I fall for this? How did this happen for me? And when they manipulate your mind like that, it's not just an event that happened. It is for me, it was, thank God, 2 years of programming where some people have gone through 20. And that's kind of how I just started adding little pieces to it. So it was like, what did I do when my kids left and I was devastated with 14 bottles of pills in front of me and I was ready to go, right? What did I do? I changed my environment. So every day I would listen to positive things. I would take walks. I would spend time with animals. I just did things I loved. I surrounded myself with things I loved. I listened to a lot of self-help. I read a lot of books on self-help and just picked parts and pieces, because I wasn't the coach then. I needed a coach. I needed somebody to tell me how to get there, or to guide me or boost me up that day. I got in touch with my therapist, and she said, oh my, and it was funny because I went to the doctor, my regular PC, and his what are they called? A nurse practitioner was in there with him. And when I said, I just got out of a relationship with a narcissist, and she went, oh, no. She knew what it was. She knew what I was going to look at. And he ended up leaving the room, and she said, I get it. I get it. And this is going to be a road. This is going to be a long road. But, you got this. And so just somebody getting it was amazing. So I'm very resilient and very resourceful. So I am a sponge for knowledge, and I just wanted to keep filling myself up with this positive things and really working hard on myself. And I finally put it together that the reason I resonated so hard with him was because of my father.
So that was the link.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my dad didn't do anything wrong, but I got comfortably uncomfortable navigating an alcoholic who comes home and checks out.
Yeah.
He was never violent. He always went to work. He just, that functional alcoholic thing. And I would never besmirch my dad's name. I loved my dad so much. But I wanted that love from him. And so here's this person that emulates him so well, and I'm getting his love, so
The affection.
there was a lot of connections that I had to make it make sense. And then I could grow from it.
Yeah.
And every day that's why I got kind of tired of when I got into TikTok and it just happened. And to give you any perspective, when I put it out there that I had been in it and helped women get out of it, I got 40,000 followers in a day.
Wow.
If that tells you anything.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the other people who created on the same lines were very much about making him the enemy, getting revenge, it got very ugly. And I said, I don't want this. I want people to grow and to get back to themselves. Screw him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care anyways.
Right.
Don't give him any more of your energy. And so it was just like this step-by-step thing that I think like divinely I was led to it.
Yeah. Another thing that I have kind of implemented for myself, my husband and I talk about this. Actually, it's been a lot over the last month or so. People who spread misery, like when you objectively look at their life, whomever it is, miserable people want the company. So looking at a narcissist, like when you really evaluate their life, what a sad life to live.
So sad.
There's no intimate connections. There's no friendships. There's no, I can call this person at 4 a.m. and they will be there. It's.
Oh, no, they have that.
Oh, do they?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
They just won't return the favor.
Is it genuine though? Like if they were to call out to somebody at 4 a.m., because you said that there weren't many friends that he had. Like a lot of it was.
But they create a facade where they get people to follow them. It's called narcissistic supply. So
narcissistic supply.
Narcissistic supply.
Okay.
That is what they are pulling from people. As far as giving it out, they have nothing to give. They suck the energy from other people. They develop their personality from other people. They are null and void of feeling, of empathy, of any of that, but they can fake it like crazy. So where they're getting something out of it if they're doing something for you, there's always something in it for them.
Okay.
They will make themselves look like the good guy. They will get attention for it. They'll get acclimates for it. So when you say he could reach out to somebody and they would be there, absolutely, because he's put out this facade. But if that same person called him, nah. Unless there was something in it for him.
Right.
Most of them are that way.
I'm thinking of a conversation that I heard where somebody said that they invited people to come and stay at their house, you know. Invitation is there whenever you want to. And then once the invitation's actually taken up, they're like, oh shit, I never actually really thought they would do that. I was just trying to be a nice person.
Yeah.
So they want, like you said, that positive, oh, well, they let me stay there, X, Y, and Z.
They're such a great guy.
Right. That's wild.
It's like helping, like he was in a position to help monetarily a lot of people. And so he would do that. It would give him the charge because they're, oh my God, you're such a great guy. You're such a great guy. What a great guy. They're centering. They're self-centering. So as long as they look like the good guy, they're good. And women are worse. Women, female narcissists are so much worse. And I can't speak a whole lot on that because I don't know a whole lot of that. But I've talked to men and I'm surprised, you know, we were talking earlier about, I'm surprised that what I talk about hits men because I speak from a woman's perspective.
Right.
But I've had a lot of men get like, what? You know, especially when it comes to the healing part, because they have a lot of healing to do too.
And men and women are just two completely different creatures.
Absolutely.
Of course, all abuse is bad.
Yep.
When I think of a woman being a narcissist, I feel like it would be more intense because we are so emotional. We have so many different hormones. We're much more complex versus men. We're more like, we have a partnership or an affiliate with Matrix Hormones. And I had my hormone panel done. And compared to my husband's, I feel like a pool. Like someone has to drop things in and check in and be like, oh, well, we need to balance this out now. And it's a lot.
It is. It's a ton. And women are very good manipulators. And they and men are in a position where they feel weak if they've been abused. They feel like it's very easy for a woman to tell her husband that he's failing at his job because he's not taking care of her like he should, or that I will never forget, I had a friend from high school call me, and he was in his truck with a gun in his hand, ready to go because he lost his job. And he said, I can't go home one more time and tell her I lost a job. And it's like, how can you feel? It triggered me a little bit because I thought, what kind of a wife would not hold you and build you up and say, what can I do? I can go back to work. Or how can we fix this? It was so foreign to me. But he just felt like he was just such a loser. And that has to come from somewhere.
That's so common.
Yeah. Yeah. When you can't provide, you're not worth shit. And to me, I'm like, oh, I'll go to work. I'll build you up in your next bit. You know, I'll help you build a next bit. What can we do together? Like, that's my nature. But it was so sad to hear it. But men are not allowed to be weak. They're not allowed to be sad. They're not allowed to be hurt. They're certainly not allowed to be abused.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And, you know, if they are, they're weak. Do you know how many women hit their men?
A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
And they're like, why didn't you just, you know, well, you can take it because she's a little woman. You can't fight back. You're too strong to fight back. You're too...
Call the cops and they're not going to believe you.
Never would they believe you. They will take you in, because in like the state that I lived in, Ohio, they have to take somebody. When you are called out to a domestic, they have to take somebody out of the situation. It will always be the man. Almost always be the man. And it doesn't matter who started it. And they're not going to listen to you anyways. Another thing I want to touch on just really quick with the police and domestic violence. Somebody who is domestically abused in either way, on average, they go back 7 times.
Yep.
So the police officers get tired of seeing the same person call over and over and over again when they keep going back. Well, you're just stupid. You just keep going back. They really need to be educated on the dynamics of trauma bonding, because a true trauma bond is somebody who puts you through trauma in order to bond you to them, because they suck you back in, and then they hurt you, and then they heal your wounds. They're the ones who do both. It's sick. But I really think men have there's a lot out there that don't say anything. See how they flow into each other? It's so hard. Because
it is all integrated and whatnot. Yeah. If I had more time today, I would love to do a part 3, because there is a lot on that topic, and like in reality, what could be done when the police are called, because women do go back on average 7 times, and there are some women who don't make it past the 3rd time. No. There are women who go back with children whose children don't make it past the 2nd time.
Yep.
So there is certainly a lot that goes into that. But I would love to have you on another segment and continue the conversation, because these are topics that need to be discussed.
Yeah.
So to end this, how did you dig yourself out of everything that was buried on top of you?
I think just I had a lot of practice doing it in different scenarios. So I took the smaller scenarios and used those to take the same steps in this case. It was harder, but it was doable. And what I saw was I was recovering when they kept saying it'll take you years and years and years. It wasn't taking me that long. So I think going through the steps of how did I get here and what made me, like, understanding it was such a huge deal. Just being aware and understanding why I did what I did was huge growth. So I just really concentrated on myself a lot. And then once I felt better, like I said, I did little things like played positive music, listened to great podcasts, listened to inspirational, motivational books. And I just kept growing and growing. And I would just pull things from different people that made sense to me and that hit home for me. And I just immersed myself in it. That is something I was pretty used to doing. I was exposed to motivational speakers in my 20s that I really loved. And I kind of fell back into the tools that this woman had taught me. I was so blessed for that.
Yeah.
And then I started formulating my own. And then I threw myself into wanting others to know it doesn't take years and years and years, and you're not permanently damaged from this. You can recover. You can get out in the first place. That's the one thing. You can leave.
Yeah.
And you can recover from it as long as your focus is on you and not on the person who did it to you.
I think there's a grace component that comes into all of that too, because you said that you would have to go back and look at things and take accountability on some of it. Like you said, that there were some red flags where you're like, I should have left at that point.
Yep.
Like that should have been the straw, yet you stayed.
Yeah.
So that's a moment where you're not victim blaming, but it's taking recognition of, I could have left, but I didn't. So next time when that happens, I'm not going to say, it's just a blip. This is who they are as a person, or whatever somebody tells themselves in that moment to rationalize. There is a lot of grace that goes in that, because there's a lot of self-hatred in admitting that I did something wrong and I could have contributed to the years of whatever that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a whole other component that is the hoovering, where they come back, and it could be years and years and years.
Yeah.
I will not be surprised the day he gets a hold of me. However, hopefully that'll never happen. But there's a component in where you get very narcissistic afterwards. You get very selfish, and you have to. You have
Because
to get
it's
selfish.
It's all been taken from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you have any final note that you would love to give the viewers?
if you are in that situation, or if you're feeling lost in any way from anything, there are steps you can take. For one, if you feel trapped where you're at, that's what he wants you to feel. That's what she wants you to feel, whoever your captor is. You're not there. You're not trapped. There are ways. If you need resources, you can reach out to me at recoveryourpower@gmail.com. You can tap into my TikTok, Recover Your Power. Anyway, you can find Recover Your Power pretty much anywhere. But don't feel like you're stuck, because you're not. And don't feel like if you feel like you're lost, you can find it again and be even better off than you were, because you're going back and you're healing things you should have or could have healed a long time ago, that going forward will never come with you again. So there's hope. There's so much hope. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's crazy to think that life has taken us to a point to where we now have crossed paths and have an interaction, and hopefully it helps a lot of people.
I hope so. I really hope so. Yeah. My goal is one person a day. If I touched on something, that's a gift. It's a gift.
That's it. All right. And
Thanks.
Thank you guys for joining us in the garden, and I will see you on the next one.